had the red jersey on to start practice?
Well, I think it was more about he and Teddy switching jerseys. Look, there's some. As soon as they did it, I started looking at them a little differently. Like there's a couple of quarterback runs we could use. But anyway, he could wear a number of jerseys, I think.
When you say he could wear a number of jerseys, I mean,
He could do a number of things.
right, going into his third year, to what extent does that cause you? I mean, I don't know if you could describe in any way how you spend time trying to imagine new things that he could do.
Well, look. It starts with some of the stuff he does extremely well now. That still sells, meaning that's still really, really good. He's got the ability to return punts, return kicks. His flexibility in the passing game and in the running game allows you, I would say, more so your game week preparation relative to the team you're playing than this whole new package of, But look, when we drafted him, it starts with he's got real exceptionally high football IQ. So he can get bored with it, and that's why we give him one of those little fidget things you twist when you can't pay attention. Spinner, is that what it is? Yeah. So he gets one of those fidget spinners.
Can you wildcat him, coach, or would you prefer not to expose him to that?
Well, look, you can, and yet I'd rather the two end of it. I'd rather he on the front end with Taysom on the other end, but you can, yeah.
Have you ever given any others?
I know he threw a 4th and 1 play action pass at Tennessee from a wildcat set, kind of like a tight end pop pass. It was pretty good. Yeah, I think you can.
You have another guy's
He's athletic.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You have another guy's fidget spinners before? Is that a?
It's the first. Alvin got the first. It was last fall.
Did it have a design on it? A lot of.
Nope, it was just simple. Hey, when you're getting bored like you do sometimes, because he's real smart. So he had his little fidget spinner.
Talking with some other people, one thing they really remember from his rookie year was that first run against the Chargers in the preseason. How much was that sort of like a eye-opening moment?
Well, there was a stretch of 2 games there at Cleveland and the Chargers. We saw the skill set relative to being a receiver, and if you remember during that camp, Adrian, Mark, and he were all getting a lot of reps, and we're just kind of into the pads. But I think that was one of those. There's a series of moments, but that was one of them where it looked pretty good off tackle, and then there were a few more that season in that were really impressive.
Coach, at what point did everyone just have to say we have to move past the way last season ended and into 2019?
Well, I think, look, to answer that, the correct way I say it, that probably would vary per player, but I don't think it's something we're discussing or right now. Our focus is forward, and it hasn't been something that has been a topic of motivation. It's still about putting yourself in a position to to get back and look. Every team at this time of the year is talking about the postseason and the opportunity to put a good season together and play in the postseason. It starts with trying to win your division first, but I would say for most, I'm sure that's in the rearview mirror.
Sean, this is mostly about install. What did you think of what you saw of some of the newer guys, whether it be Jared or Eric?
I thought it was really good. Look, there's a lot they get in a short period of time. While they're also catching up in the weight room, while they're also catching up with their conditioning. So I think when camp comes, then we begin that same installation that they've had now. And so there's a lot of repetition in the early stages, which is part of learning.
Sean, when you get a guy like Taylor Stallworth who makes the team as an undrafted rookie, do you see going into year 2 any sort of different sort of confidence, demeanor?
Yeah, I think you do. A player who's been here now, a player who's developed more in the weight room, and a player who's gotten to taste it. You get a year under your belt as a free agent, and you recognize the hard work that goes into that. So, he'll be someone we look forward to seeing during camp.
Coach, obviously it's hard to figure out what you're really getting out of the offensive lineman and when nobody's in pads. But I mean, what have you kind of seen from Eric? And I mean, has he kind of shown what you guys wanted to see when you guys drafted him?
Yeah, I think he's exceptionally smart. I think he picks things up well. He's a strong player. So some of that relative to your strength in what we're doing in these drills, maybe you don't get to see as much of. But, just the under center snaps that may have occurred more in this offseason than he was used to in college, that type of thing. But, I'm anxious to see him as we get started, and I think that, he's someone that's picked things up very well.
What was the World War II museum visit like for Liz?
I think it was fantastic, and on the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and look, we just happened to be the city that hosts that museum. I think that worked out well, where we could get on buses before it opened and spend some time and just see it all. It's a fabulous museum. There, we had a chance to meet 2 veterans, that fought during that time. I think it was good for the team, relative to, we had a little short video before we left talking about that day and the sacrifice that day that took place to afford us some of the things that we have now. So, I mean, it was, I thought it was really good.
Coach, what are some of the biggest takeaways, I think, from this off-season training you guys kind of have so far? And are you kind of excited with what you've kind of saw?
Yeah, I would definitely say, look, there's no specific takeaway. We're teaching, we're giving them the information, we're getting them in the weight room, which is most important. Getting their weights right, building up their strength and stamina, and it's a process. But I like the health of where we're at right now overall, and the key is to put ourselves in the best position at training camp so we can make the right decisions relative to the roster.
How long do you know before you have an idea what kind of team you have?
I don't know that, honestly, and I say that I don't know that until you start the first quarter pole of the season, but you feel the experience and the competitive nature of guys. But I think, look, we're trained as coaches to prepare in a way and prepare the players in a way where each week, there's 31 others training. So it's hard to measure this invisible race that's taking place this early where everyone else is at. You just got to assume they're going full speed and making gains and improving their team. And so the focus becomes a lot more just inward relative to yourself, and so that's where we've tried to keep it now.
Sean, looking in the back end of the running back group, Washington, free agent Zigbo, Buck Allen, is it all a matter of how they contribute on special teams?
That's an important part of it, Bobby. That's an important part of it, and yet you still want to see someone that can function as a runner. But I think when you're a player, maybe at any position, 2 deep or 3 deep, the more you can do when it comes to your game day, then, the better position you put yourself in.
Coach, obviously it's early. Marcus Davenport, what does he kind of look like, I guess, going from year 1 to year 2?
He's doing well.
The biggest differences, I guess.
He's doing well. I mean, right now we're not in pads, but he's doing a good job.
Coach, just wanted to ask you, he only coached here 1 year, but you and Ed Ogeron maintained a good friendship.
Sure.
What makes him special? What kind of job you think he's doing?
Look, he's passionate about football. I think he's doing a great job. When you look at someone who's from this state and loves the game, and is a guy that I know guys that work with him and for him, how highly they speak of him, and I think that I know he's a fantastic recruiter. So we follow those guys closely. It's good to see Ed in that position. He's going to do well.
When you see clips of him trying to get his players fired up and stuff, do you have any specific thoughts? Or
I haven't seen those clips. I've seen clips